while, while you're so fired up, let's do this real quick, a civil rights exercise, because we used to sing together. Let's do a tiny bit of this little light. I've got a couple of remarks, and then we're going to have some great questions, because my co-panelists, Rachel and Dustin, have given you so much information. Make sure you visit the tables, visit the website, stay connected. This generation is not only the pro-life generation, but soon to be the post-Roe generation, okay? Let's do this together. Let's do this together real quick. If you should have learned this in school somewhere. They took prayer out of schools in 63. Abortion became legal in 73. But let's see if you still know it. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. This little light. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Okay, so you're doing that, and I commend you for that. Now, I used to be a state legislator, 78 to 83, went out of there. And as a state legislator, let me tell you sometimes how legislation passes. I was driving, I was young, had kids late, and I needed to turn right. The light was red. I said, there's no need for this. I walked into legislative council, tell them to write the bill up. It passed all over America. You can turn right on red. And that's really, that's the truth. That's the truth. And I wrote that law. Another law, Martin Luther King holiday bill, they hid it in committee like they're just talking, pretended that they were all for a Martin Luther King holiday bill and everything, kept it in committee. I go into the speaker's office, frustrated, crying, falling out. Oh, God, I'm crying. He says, if you stop crying, we'll let it out of committee. Now, that really did happen. That's exactly how it happened. So this is true. When you smoke these, ladies and gentlemen, out, and Dustin is telling you how to do it, apply the pressure. Now, the Texas heartbeat bill was introduced in Texas. You know, this is current. This is right now. The Congresswoman used to be a nurse. She was there at the birth of a 15-week-old baby who struggled and struggled for her life. So we asked, why 15 weeks? When she wrote that bill, she was thinking of that little baby girl, 15 weeks old, who was fighting for her life. And now we do have that Texas heartbeat bill. And you know, they'll say, oh, well, you're not really pro-life, that's incremental. No, we save as many as we can and keep going. There's no such thing. No such thing. So, Kristen Hawkins calls me the original OG. Is that okay? Whatever that means. All right. So you are this generation. You have to have relentless unity in your communities on the college campuses. And I was invited on Fox News the other day, and they wanted to talk about a new Satan club. And I said, well, okay, if it's constitutional and they can actually have that club, you can take all your time trying to run that club out, or open up a pro-life Christian club and tell the truth so beautifully and so convincingly, they all quit like they did in the Bible when Paul went to Mars Hill and told the truth, and they burned up all their evil stuff. So proclaim, absolutely, proclaim truth and do it well with your statistics, with your facts, with your information, with your enthusiasm and your energy. Critical race, womb to the tomb. Those are real people. We know it. Let's proclaim it. And I was elected, and it took me a long time to understand how to do stuff, and there was no 140 characters a list back there. There was no internet back then. But that is here now. So teach politicians how to deliver a message. You frame the argument. Don't let them come up with their language. We frame the discussion. It is our vocabulary, and we are winning. So I congratulate each and every one of you. I love you very, very much. Continue to shine the light and to shine the truth. You mean more to me than you know. It gives me energy to keep living and keep fighting. And so this is the last point, because when I was young and in high school, I ran track and threw the shot put in the discus. And so have you ever noticed in track, you always forget the person who passes the torch because the torch goes on. But that person, the momentum is so strong, the person who passed it runs along with the new runner for a while. So we're going to all keep running together. God bless you. I love each and every one of you.
I'm in seeing? All right, I'm in seeing. So we got some time for some questions for any three of us. Yes, you sir, right up front.
Thank you. There's no microphone I can see, so I'll just project. Thank you all three of you for coming and speaking. My question for you is specifically, there are a lot of Republicans who love messaging on being pro-life. And when it comes to it, they'll do sneaky things like hide it in committee, or they'll still message that they're pro-life. My question to you is, how are we as conservative activists or people who care about the issue of abortion able to draw out these people in leadership who love messaging on being opposed to abortion, but when it comes down to it, it's just a fundraising venture for them? How do we actually push them to actually pull it out of committee and be aggressive? I'm hesitant to use that word, but at least very forward on pushing that issue and not just using it as a fundraising tool.
Awesome. So the question is how to get Republicans who campaign on life to stop playing tricks when they're in the Capitol and actually take action on life. And I'll defer, since I'm in seeing and also a panelist, but anyone want to take that one first?
I can start. I think a lot of this is moving the goalposts. People always blame the conservative movement for doing this, and I'm like, no, guys, that's our job, right? First, we want them to say they're pro-life. First, we want them to get very comfortable with that and know that they have to say it to be elected. And I think we've gotten to that stage, right? We've gotten to the point where I think Republicans know that they have to actually come to these events. They have to pat us on the head, right? But then we have to move the goalposts further and say, okay, you've done that now. Now we expect legislative action. And this goes back to the point I was trying to make earlier, which is stop accepting their excuses for why you can't do this. And this is particularly true. I work at the federal level, so I'm going to talk about that. But this is particularly true in the United States Senate. So in the House, where kind of Democrats are in charge now, but the House is extremely majoritarian. So when Republicans are in charge, they can do whatever they want. They can put whatever bills they want on the floor. Okay? So that's one and done there. But in the Senate, every single senator, regardless of who's in charge of the Senate, has the authority to bring bills to the floor. They don't want you to know that because they're lazy. And this takes work. All right, but they have the ability to force these votes, and they should be forcing them, guys, on every single appropriations bill that comes to the floor of the Congress.
And what you have to do, therefore, what you have to do is to attend those committee meetings and then do what you did with the gentleman who wouldn't show up to vote. And you get that information and shine that little light on that, and they will take that pressure and they will respond.
I think they answered that completely. I have nothing else to add to that, and also we can have a few more questions. Yes, you in the back.
Yes, so we're all in for life. Obviously, after the womb, children have to live their lives. I want to know what the panel's position is on what I think is the deleterious effects of CRT and what's being done about that in the schools.
Womb to tomb means exactly that. And I would say when I joined the movement, somewhere between 83 and 84, I had a spiritual experience and accepted Jesus Christ and agreed to start telling the truth. Yeah. And so once I did that, I would say as an African-American woman especially, I said, okay, save the baby. Absolutely. Without life, there is no need for civil rights. But let's take care of the mother and the father. And then go ahead and pull in the grandparents as well. And then it becomes from the womb to the tomb. And I didn't even use the Bible example. I said like the Lion King, the circle of life. You get it? So you're born, you grow up, you instill values in those children, and then they grow up and it continues. So it's womb to tomb. And CRT, we did a post recently, and it got some responses. CRT is racist, period. So rather than just saying we won't teach it, no, teach that it's racist. And Darwin and Margaret Sanger and all those people tried to say there's a superior race. That's not a superior race. That's a human race. There's nothing wrong with us explaining that and telling people that. And so we accept that, not in fear. They don't always get to frame the argument. We do it. And so it's the veterans, it's the widows, it's the sick, the poor, the babies, and rich people need help too, because they sometimes are so immersed in getting. My dad, A.D. King, said, some people are more concerned with making a living than making a life. And so we have to do that womb to tomb. That's what womb to tomb means.
Yes, ma'am, you in the front. Yes. Sure, I'll flag that one. Yeah, every state matters, from dog catcher to president. Every election matters, and every state matters. At the state level, the question earlier about how do we drown them out? How do we drown them out? The primaries, like if right now it's Democrats are there's a few pro-life Democrats, you'll find them, but it's hard to get engaged and support them because you tell the primary electorate a lot of time that this is the pro-life Democrat, and you're actually hurting that Democrat sometimes in the primary. So for us, it's a lot of times it's Republican primaries. I think those are the most important ones because Republicans kind of understand they might have to face a Democrat in the fall. Like they kind of get that, but if you challenge them in the primary, that's like, oh, I'm the Republican nominee. How dare you? So like, our position is, think of it like a court case. We're the prosecutors trying to prove why this Republican is not pro-life, and we're trying to explain to every single one of their constituent that would care about the issue, why they're bad on it, why they're doing nothing, the committee votes that they're hiding things on, and the parliamentary tricks that they do, and we're exposing them on it. So those are more, I would say, arguably, pro-life policy for me is determined in the primaries. Period, plain and simple. So
yeah, I'll just add briefly to that. I think both the state and federal elections are so important, but oftentimes at the state level, the states are so much more righteous on this issue, right, than the guys at the federal level, and they push those people. They push the people at the federal level. When Texas passed its abortion law, when Mississippi passed its abortion law, do you know how terrified that made congressional Republicans? They didn't want to talk about the issue. They wanted it to go away. They were terrified of having that debate. But because those states did what they did, they now have to stand up and have that debate. And I'm sorry, if you watched those arguments in Dobbs, you know that the debate we were scared of having, are you kidding me? The pro-abortion movement, which includes 3 Supreme Court justices, embarrassed themselves. Okay, their arguments were completely about feelings and fake facts. And, the Biden administration's best lawyer walked right up to the line of defending Plessy versus Ferguson, the horrible relic of the Jim Crow South, because she couldn't admit that Roe could be overturned. I'm sorry, that's the debate we didn't want to have? Give that to me every day of the week. So thank you to the states that do this.
And we have time for one more question before lunch, and I saw you last time, so I'll let you go.
Alveda, my dear friend, could you give us one vignette of a memory of you and your uncle, and how his attitude affected all we're talking about?
Let me say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, my grandfather, Martin Luther King Sr., when I was conceived in 1950, and Birth Control League becoming Planned Parenthood was trying to get mother not to have me. And Daddy King, with a prophetic ultrasound, said, you have to have that baby. She's a girl. I saw her in a dream 3 years ago, and she has bright skin and bright red hair. And so later his son, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. He also said the Negro cannot win if he's willing to sacrifice the futures of his children for immediate personal comfort and safety. Now, you don't hear these quotes often because many of them were in his sermons rather than in his speeches. I had the opportunity, I was 17 years old when he was killed, and my dad, Reverend A.D. King, was killed the next year in the Civil Rights Movement. So I grew up with men and women who chose life and supported life. And I had an opportunity to hear many of my uncle's sermons sitting right there in that congregation, and some of those remain with me. Also, I'll give you one of his last quotes that you will have to really look for to find. And I may be paraphrasing. He says, "If I knew the world was going to fall apart tomorrow, I would still plant my apple tree today." So children are a gift from God, and the seed of the father and the fruit of the womb of the mother are very valuable. This must be taught to every generation for children, parents, and grandparents, and now in every decade.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming.